to a Musician Reacts, and today we are checking out a soundcheck from Alice in Chains, and the song is Wood. This is from 1993. So varying from my other channel Dave Does, where we check out just kind of cool reactions, I like to check out some other stuff behind the scenes, talking studio sort of stuff, plus also break down reactions on this particular channel. So on this particular one, this is obviously the original lineup of Alice in Chains, playing one of their biggest songs, Wood. I like to see the comparison of what live performance is like versus their soundcheck. Maybe go through a little bit of detail for those that you don't that've never played in a band, of kind of what goes on in a soundcheck. See what they do differently to other bands in soundchecks and etc. Because this is a festival stage, so this is not like their own setup. So it's a little bit different that way. Now, if you like this video, please do subscribe, click the bell icon, like, share, leave your comments down below. Check out my other channel, Dave Does. You can also support this channel via we've got the Dave Does merch store. We've got the Patreon, which is the free $5 and $10 a month Patreon packages, which are really cool. Please do check those out in the detailed description down below. We also have, or should hopefully have by now, the PO box. So if you want to promote your band, your own craft business, or anything, and you want me to promote it on the channel, you can send it down to the PO box, and I will do unboxings during videos, and also do monthly unboxings as well. So yeah, always looking forward to seeing what you guys want to send in. But let's go check this out. God, I just realised how bright it is on this bloody screen. Take a little bit of the edge off in this room here. Hey, there you go. It's a little bit, it's not quite as bad and glaring on my bloody face. Right, I'm going to put headphones on. Now, normally I don't pause videos. I wait to the end, but I'm going to go on headphones here. That way, if I need to, I can pause and set this up. Right, let's do this. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Just before it gets into all of that, obviously at that point, I would guess by this point they've obviously done quickly line check. Normally they would go round the drums, usually start with kick, snare, tom racks, so going from toms, so tom 1 is usually high tom, and that goes down to floor, and they just basically get a full signal of it, and then they don't tend to do cymbal mics too much during a sound check. They'll have cymbal mics set up, but they'll pick that up as an overall sound as far as the balance of the mix. Once they've done a mic run through, and they'll usually have snare top, snare bottom to get full resonance, they'll then do a full play of the kit, and that would have probably been what they would have done there. Just as what he started playing while he was just kind of playing around there. But then once they've done the drums, they'll just do a kind of line check, make sure bass, guitar, crunch tone, clean tone, etc. And now they'll be basically full band playthrough. And if you've done this enough times, you'll have already agreed as a band what your song is that you're going to sound check. So it's usually 1 or 2 songs. You'll do a full song playthrough, and then maybe a snippet of a song with any adjustments, because what you're really looking for is full song playthrough, and you're listening for things like your in-ear monitors. The sound engineer is trying to get an overall balance out front. The band on stage are purely looking for their in-ear monitors, and if they're not using in-ears, they're looking at their actual physical monitors at the side. Usually the drummer will have one at the side here, and the rest of the guys will have it in the front. In a stage like this will all be in-ears, and then what you'll do is at the end of the song, you'll talk about any changes you want to be made. Certain people are louder, and he'll just go around each person, and then you'll get usually about 30 seconds of another song to do, and then if that's all set, you move off, and they'll make a note on the mixing board of all your settings, and that'll be on to the next band. But let's carry on. Let's see the actual song itself. So the guy that's walking in front of the drum kit there, he'll be either one of the relevant techs. He'll either be a tech from the actual festival, or he'll be the individual band's tech. Each tech guy will, for a band like Alice in Chains, you'll have at least one main tech. So you'll have a drum tech, guitar tech, each bass tech, Vocals not normally has tech. You'll usually have a general like stage manager type, but roadie that will deal with the mics as a whole. That guy's probably just looking for anything else that needs taping down, securing, anything that's not connected correctly, anything that's not secured in the right places. So already their first verse in on the sound, you couldn't even hear their vocals at all, and that's exactly how you expect it, because this is basically a camera being taken. So you're not getting the mixing board feed, you're just getting a camera filming. One of the trickiest of this sort of situation is you've got an empty arena, there's not, and the sound is going to massively change once you fill it up with people. It will deaden certain spots, etc. So you're going to get a lot more of a boomy sound when it's like this, because it's just nothing for, it's just the sound is coming out from those big PAs flying backwards and it's not hitting anything. The soundboard in the middle is the first usual thing, or there might be a couple of towers, and it's quite interesting if you're at a festival and they've got these big PA towers halfway down the field. If you're behind one of those, the sound that comes out the first speakers ends up hitting and refracting off, so you end up getting this weird bounce effect, and it can make it. This is why sometimes when you get like the audience singing back, they get these big crowd audiences singing. They sound like the audience can't sing in time with the band, and that's just because that's when they're here and the sound is taking that long to travel. So when they think they're singing in time with the band, but actually they're not singing in time with the band, they're actually with what's going through the mixing desk. So smaller venues are a little bit better for that sort of thing. Let's carry on. Okay, so we were getting a bit of feedback there, so that could be a couple of different things on there. That's either mics being placed too close to some of the speakers, maybe, as he's pushing up. Also, it doesn't help where on this particular song, it's a good song to soundcheck to, because it's got you've got Lane sings really low at points and then he really punches up. Now for that he has to have vocal control and pull back from the mic, otherwise the fader is going to be pushed up quite high for his earlier vocals, and then as he goes into the big power, it's going to just blow it if he stays too close. Now I think in that particular case is obviously they're fading up the vocals to make sure you could hear them all, and then he's gone really high, so you got a bit of feedback. That's why he winched away. I think he was a bit too close to the mic, and also the fader was up a bit high, but that's what they're basically trying to correct on this point. See, even there again, he's not pulling back from his vocals, Mike, which I find really strange. If you see it actually in a lot of other performances, he does pull it back. See, Lane seems a little bit not like with it as much on this particular sound check. And you still, he's really up close. He's just kind of singing into it. He's just putting the vocal, which is making the vocals a little bit, getting that feedback sound, which we don't want. But drummer wise, the drummer is just going to literally be playing his kit, and all he's going to be basically doing is working his way through the song and making sure he can hear certain cues. So the main thing for like on this one was he'll be waiting for that bass tone. As long as he can have a real clear balanced bass tone coming through. So that's why sometimes you'll pick two songs in a sound check, one with like a heavy distortion, one with a clean, and hopefully a balance of those which has got different intros so that you can hear. Because especially if you've only ever got like one guitarist that always does all the intros to your song, that's fine. As a drummer, you don't mind having that in, because if it's an intro based on them, you don't want every single song to be a 4 count in. It just sounds odd when you go, right, start the next song, 1 2 3 4 go. It's not great. So you want the guitarist to be able to set the tempo, which is good if you've got a guitarist that can actually set the right tempo and doesn't either play it too slow or too fast, and then you can just jump straight in on it. But the problem is, and I've had this before on gigs where I can't clearly hear what the guitarist is playing. So I've not got it right in my mix, and I'm kind of listening to it as intently as I can, and I can't clearly hear the definition of what he's playing. So I don't know when to come in, and I've come in early or I've come in late, and the whole band are struggling. It's not just me. Everyone's looking at each other going, I don't know what we're doing. And that's awful. And that's what you're trying to get in this sound check, is to get that really nice balance. So another thing the sound engineer is going to want is the guitarist to switch through different effects. So he'll want to know what is his high gain effect and what is his core rhythm. Mainly because the high gain will usually be his solo, that will push, and it usually has like a treble booster and stuff. It just basically pushes it slightly higher up in the mix, so it stands ahead of everything, right? Because you don't want the guitar to always be ahead of everything. You want it to sit nicely with the bass, but when the solo comes in, you usually want it to raise a bit. That's predominantly more when you have two guitarists, because you want that to go ahead of the other rhythm guitarist. In this case, maybe not so much, but again, they would want to hear something with dual pedals. I'm still concerned about where that feedback's coming from. I would assume it's vocals, but I'd have thought the engineer would have got that on top of that by that second chorus. So odd that you're still getting that. So it may be coming off of something else. Okay, just something to point out in here. So you see behind or in between the bass, you've got the bassists over here, and you've got Lane over here, and drums, and you've got these amps here, and you've got these back big amps. These are most likely empty. It's unlikely, or in this case, maybe one of these is mic'd up and the others aren't. So there's this big thing about like the wall of sound. You don't need that, because those sort of speakers are not going to carry much into the audience. The big speakers are the ones around the sides. They're your PAs. These tend to be cabinets. They're for show. It's a lot easier to buy empty, hollowed out cabinets. You'll see it on the other side of this page as well with the Marshalls. Now, in some cases, they will mic up one of them, and there'll be an actual speaker in one of those which they'll be using to take the sound from. But in most cases, what you'll have here is, like in this case, you will have this little amp here, which looks like a Mesa Boogie, and that looks like the bass amp. It's got a little microphone in front of it. It's a combo amp, and that will be basically what the bass player is using. That's his amp. Not all this stuff over here, that's nothing to do with him. That's just for performance. That's just for show, for a backdrop. That's all he actually needs is in this one. Now, if you go to a stage where there's not loads of backroom stages, in a lot of gigs that we've played, you will have every different band's amps on the stage. So you'll have your cabinet, you'll have your head. Sometimes you'll just swap the heads and keep the same cabs if the stage isn't big enough. But yeah, you wouldn't be using all of these sort of cabinets and stuff like that. It's just for show, and they're always empty. Like Machine Head used to have massive stacks of them with all these cabinets, and actually they just used to use different ones. Now they were endorsed. I think Machine Head were endorsed by. I think it was it was either Hughes or Kettner or Mesa Boogie, and he actually used an orange amp on a few of his tours, I think it was. But of course, he couldn't showcase that because he was endorsed by another amp manufacturer. So he always had his orange amp was hidden around the back, and that's actually what was mic'd up. Which is a bit of a shame, because if you're a big fan and you're kind of looking at him on stage going, that's the amp I want, that's what I want to use, look at these big cabs, that's not what they're actually playing through. Okay, let's finish this off. Okay, I know he's just finishing there, but I just wanted to point out one thing. He was doing this a lot to his ear. That either means that his in-ears have got a little bit of leakage, or he's got a little bit of sound coming through. He wants to just make sure he's harmonising, he's got the right sound. Because he was doing kind of a little bit of a vocal he's doing this. He just wanted to make sure he was in key for it and he could hear it, and that's again, he was just checking his in-ears. Now usually you'll have in-ears in both sides. Some vocalists prefer to have one on the other so they can kind of get a better sound. Usually if you see a singer clip out one of his in-ears, it usually means he's got a bad mix, and he's getting too much of something in his ear. He can't get it corrected in time, so he flicks one out so he can get an overall sound, and then he can hear his voice, because you'll get a bit more of his own voice on there, and you'll tend to see it's usually the vocalist that will flick their in-ears out, but it usually means the mix is bad. They'll flick out one side, keep one in, so they've got the kind of the core of the mix, so they've got the tempo, because from when they're at the front of the stage and the drummers are there, they're going to be getting loads of cymbal. And from a drummer's point of view, you do when you're behind a drum kit, all you're hearing is cymbal. When you're smashing around, you can't hear nothing but cymbals, because that just hits you in the face. Out front, it's kind of similar, although what you get from a singer is kick drum. You have kick drum hit and cymbals. Let's just finish the last 10 seconds of this off. Oh, it's a shame. I was hoping they were going to sort of do a little bit about what they do afterwards, which is a shame. I like that when they do that. But yeah, so I think what was interesting there, let me just get this off the screen. Yeah, I think what was interesting there was seeing how the sound engineer changed the mix from the out front mix. So from initially it was loads of bass, couldn't really hear the guitar too much, couldn't hear vocals. Bass came up, vocals. Bass came. I think bass kind of pretty much held its own. Guitar was brought up, and vocals came up. By the end of that song, if that was still the final mix, I wouldn't have been happy as a band. Out front, anyway. I don't know what their on-stage performance was like. Now they obviously the main thing for Soundcheck is you're not there to put on a big show. It is all about the process of getting a great sound ready for the show. Some people do, especially now with the element of these sort of fan packages where you can go and see the band and join them for the sound check. There's been a lot more interactivity on that. I've seen some bands have brought people on stage just to jam on a song during sound check and stuff like that, just as part of their kind of interactive packages. But I like it. I like to see what they do, but yeah, not the best sound engineering experience I would have said on that particular one, but cool to check it out anyway. Now, if you like this video, please do subscribe, click the bell icon, like, share, leave your comments down below. Make sure to check out my other channel, Dave Does, and that, of course, is How a Musician Reacts.